Prince William is reportedly formulating a plan to finally strip Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their HRH titles. Riley Sullivan is a lifestyle reporter here at skynews.com.au, and he's always across the latest celebrity headlines.
It began in silence, not in the tabloids, nor in a fiery social media rant, but in the hushed corridors of one of the world's oldest legislative chambers, the House of Lords. Subtle whispers suggested that Meghan Markle's title, the Duchess of Sussex, might soon face the ultimate challenge. From outside, it took shape like a slow build-up of distant thunder. Celebrities, royal watchers, and insiders alike wondered if these were just baseless rumors. Yet, for those keeping a close eye on British politics, there was a tangible shift in the air. The quiet tension has been simmering for years, ever since Meghan and Prince Harry stepped back from full-time royal duties. Now, it seems that silence has transformed into something much louder, with powerful figures stepping forward to say, enough is enough.
Still using her HRH title, despite agreeing to drop the title when the Sussexes left royal duties. How is Will planning to deal with this?
No one saw this explosive move coming quite so quickly. For a time, it seemed the monarchy and parliament might attempt to ignore the Sussexes' public statements. But each new controversy, every viral interview, each rumoured slight stacked up. Eventually, the House of Lords found itself in the eye of a storm it could not simply brush aside. The motion to strip Meghan Markle of her remaining royal style and status has leapt from whisper to official submission.
Meghan Markle has been very brazen recently with the use of the HRH. Now, royal fans will know in 2020, during the negotiations for Harry and Meghan to leave royal duties, it was agreed with Queen Elizabeth that they will not use the HRH title. That is a long-standing precedent, and there's good reason for it. Basically, the HRH is only given to working royals.
Toppling the notion that these matters stay purely within Buckingham Palace walls, supporters of the monarchy argue that this is a clear defense of tradition. Critics claim it's an overreach, or even a personal vendetta.
Being instructed not to, I think is absolutely infuriating in Buckingham Palace. And there was a very interesting source inside close to the Prince of Wales who spoke to the Daily Beast.
So how did it escalate from quiet talk to a full-throated push in Britain's upper chamber? Let's uncover the twists and turns behind this. The tension traces back to the day Meghan Markle first stepped into the royal spotlight, wedding Prince Harry in a ceremony that captivated millions. It was supposed to be a fairy tale, a celebration of modern love and progress. Then came a blitz of headlines, rumored disagreements with staff, unconfirmed spats with other royals, and fumbled PR moments that splashed across the media. Still, few foresaw the day when Parliament, of all places, would get involved. But as whispers gave way to rumblings, one detail emerged repeatedly. Certain powerful figures believed Meghan was misusing her title for private projects.
Release of Harry and Meghan's bombshell Netflix documentary, and the papers have been reacting overnight. Oh boy, have they been reacting. The pair are dominating the front pages. One conservative...
Now, the House of Lords is giving that belief a formal voice, one that could resonate across the entire Commonwealth. In a move rarely witnessed in contemporary royal history, a petition aimed squarely at the Duchess of Sussex is moving through the House of Lords.
MP said that he is planning to bring forward legislation in an attempt to strip the Duke and Duchess of Sussex of their...
It's not just a ceremonial frown or a symbolic gesture either. It's a legal motion with teeth. According to insiders, this petition has garnered support not only from staunch traditionalists, but also from more progressive voices. The House of Lords, known for its deliberative pace, doesn't typically rush into these sorts of conflicts. So, its clear, determined approach to Meghan's title is sending a message across the world. Parliament will act if it believes royal protocol has been sufficiently violated.
Changed my mind on things, but I don't want them to be stripped of it, but I think what I now understand they're trying to do, I think that would really be validated if they said, this institution isn't for us. We love our family, but we would like to hand these back. And I think that would be incredible.
Lord Simon Lee, a crossbench peer with a reputation for impartiality, spearheaded the petition. Observers say it didn't take long for others to rally around it, including members from both the Conservative and Labour parties. The crux of their argument, Meghan Markle's use of the Duchess of Sussex title has, in their eyes, crossed boundaries, blurred lines, and possibly damaged the very fabric of the monarchy. They accuse her of using aristocratic prestige for commercial gain, ignoring established diplomatic protocols, and fueling family drama that extends far beyond the usual tabloids.
Do you think they might be?
There could be. I mean, it really depends on the next part of the documentary and what it shows, doesn't it? You know,
because we haven't had the shock
factor yet. I feel really sad about it, to be honest. I feel sad that we've got to this point. I think they could have made a lot of differences.
I wish.
The Lords' motion, on the surface, might seem to some like a heavy-handed step. However, defenders argue that if the monarchy doesn't protect its titles, it risks undermining an institution built up over centuries. In the past, most royal disagreements were handled quietly behind palace doors, often with private negotiations or gentle guidance by senior courtiers. However, the Sussex saga has repeatedly played out in the public realm, on Netflix, in podcasts, and across global media.
It would not be a good move because we need to try and cool the temperature. We need to try and kind of understand what is this all about, and that was my big thing with watching 3 hours of it last night. 3 hours. I thought,
won't get them back, Kate.
I thought, what are they trying to say? And I wasn't even quite sure. What did they say to you, Linda?
Each new interview or revelation ignites public debate, leading many to feel that a private discussion no longer suffices. By bringing the matter formally into Parliament, the House of Lords is effectively saying, this is bigger than a mere family disagreement. This is about our constitutional structure and the sanctity of noble designations. And with that, the quiet frustration turned into a bold legislative step, placing Meghan Markle's Duchess title at real risk.
Life, they've moved to America, they've got their house, they've got their kids over there, so they're not really part of our...
I don't think it's even that they don't deserve it, it's just they don't want to live it. So if they don't want to live it, then what's the point?
It will make what they're saying more authentic, because I think it is authentic, but you can't say all of that and then keep those titles.
Few things capture the gravity of a situation more than cold, hard statistics. As the dust settles around the House of Lords' surprising move, a wave of polls has emerged, indicating significant public discontent. According to one recent survey, an astonishing 77% of the British public supports the idea of removing Meghan Markle's Sussex title. Beyond the poll numbers, social media threads and comment sections teem with heated debates. Some voices champion Meghan as an independent figure who refused to subjugate her voice to centuries of monarchy tradition. Others see her as disrespectful to an ancient institution that demands respect and loyalty.
I think of her as an actress, and I remember when I was in a relationship years ago, everything I did and said, whether I cried, whether I joked, this boyfriend of mine would say, well, you're an actress.
As if you were fake.
So I think as if it was fake. So I feel that she's also a bit awkward and watching everything that she's saying.
Regardless of perspective, the numbers are hard to ignore. It's significant that this frustration isn't limited to one political faction or age group. Observers note that in a time when the UK is more politically polarized than ever, Meghan's case has done the unthinkable, unified a wide swath of the public in disapproval. Even many who once supported the idea of a modern people's princess have reportedly changed their stance, feeling that the Sussex brand has become more about headlines and big money deals than about duty or service. Critics often point to Meghan's multiple media ventures as evidence of alleged exploitation of a title she no longer wishes to uphold in a traditional sense. In other words, if you step away from the obligations, is it fair to keep the perks? Of course, not everyone supports stripping her title. Some believe it sets a worrying precedent. Should Parliament have the power to remove noble designations if their holders speak or act outside the expected boundaries? Even so, the petition moving through the House of Lords indicates that this question is being taken very seriously. People from all corners of the UK are watching closely, sensing that the monarchy and Parliament could be on the brink of a historic rift, or perhaps a re-evaluation of the monarchy's role in the modern world. While the final outcome remains uncertain, one thing is clear: these poll numbers have given the Lords the momentum they need to press forward. Sometimes, a single trip can change everything. For Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, their so-called private visit to Nigeria has become a flashpoint in the campaign to remove Meghan's remaining royal privileges. The House of Lords cites that trip as a prime example of what it calls unauthorized diplomatic posturing. The couple allegedly donned traditional attire, posed for photos with high-ranking military officials, and engaged in speeches as though they were still actively working royals. To an outsider, it might appear harmless, public figures attending cultural events, but behind palace walls, it sent shockwaves. Here's the crux of the issue. Buckingham Palace and the UK Foreign Office were reportedly none the wiser until after the fact. That's no small oversight. In the world of international relations, even minor confusions about who speaks for the crown can carry major repercussions. Britain's monarchy is supposed to remain politically neutral, lest it spark unintended consequences or insult a foreign government. The Lords argue that by blurring the line between personal causes and official representation, Meghan and Harry risked undermining the monarchy's carefully guarded neutrality. From their point of view, if the Sussexes want complete autonomy, they shouldn't be acting like ambassadors sanctioned by the crown. Critics of this parliamentary measure say it's an overreaction, insisting that Meghan and Harry's trip was purely charitable and cultural. Yet, the key complaint from the Lords is that no institution was informed, leaving plenty of room for misunderstanding or diplomatic wrinkles. Historically, members of the royal family coordinate every detail of official visits to avoid exactly this scenario. By ignoring this process, Meghan may have unwittingly provided the Lords with additional ammunition in their legal crusade. For them, it's yet another sign that the Duchess of Sussex is treating the title like a personal trademark, rather than a trust-based honor rooted in centuries of protocol. Not all controversies hinge on formal events or big interviews. Sometimes, a seemingly trivial offhand comment can ignite a firestorm. In Meghan's case, it happened at a Beyoncé concert in Los Angeles, where she was overheard exclaiming, "You! No, I'm Sussex now." This playful remark, shared and reshared on social media, might have passed unnoticed if circumstances were different. Instead, it quickly fanned the flames of criticism, fueling claims that she treats her Duchess title as little more than a punchline. For many members of the House of Lords, this concert clip crystallized what they saw as a pattern of disregard. To them, the title Duchess of Sussex is no light matter. It's both an emblem of trust and a tether to Britain's constitutional heritage. When Meghan made that remark to the crowd, critics say she effectively turned a centuries-old tradition into a casual tagline. Loyal royalists, especially in the upper political echelons, found that deeply insulting. While it might sound overstated, to outsiders, these small gestures accumulate over time, each one reinforcing the narrative that Meghan isn't respecting the obligations attached to her title. Supporters object that critics are blowing the matter out of proportion. After all, it was just a fun moment at a big entertainment event. Yet, in the context of repeated controversies, from lucrative Netflix partnerships to unapproved public appearances, those words at the concert felt like icing on the cake to Parliament's more traditional members. The petition highlights this incident as evidence that the Duchess title has become a casual gimmick for a global celebrity brand. If she can wave it around in a stadium, they argue, she needs to be ready to abide by the rules that originally granted her that privilege. Long before the House of Lords took action, murmurs swirled about how Meghan and Harry's new projects leveraged their royal credentials. From multi-million-dollar Netflix deals to podcast series on Spotify, the pair's titles often appeared front and center in promotional materials. Some of these productions even launched with the introduction, "The Duke and Duchess of Sussex," displayed in regal fonts. And who could forget the controversy over Sussex Royal, a trademark attempt that the Queen herself had to intervene against. Observers on both sides debated, are Meghan and Harry capitalizing on a brand that's meant to carry centuries of tradition, rather than being a marketing label? In the eyes of the Lords, this latest motion musters a firm stance on the issue. They believe titles tied to the crown come with specific duties and respect, not wide-open opportunities for sponsorship deals and splashy docuseries. They point out that, while many royals do engage in charitable connections or patronages, there's a distinct line between philanthropic representation and big-budget media ventures aimed at global audiences. Once the Sussexes stepped back from active service, the House of Lords contends they lost the moral right to brand themselves as official spokespeople of the monarchy. That's where the heart of this controversy lies, in the clash between tradition and ambition. Some see Meghan and Harry as modern figures forging a contemporary path, using media platforms to share stories, highlight causes, and remain financially independent. Others, including many supporters of the petition, see it as a misuse of station, magnifying personal fame via a courtesy title that conveys a sense of royal endorsement, whether intentional or not. Regardless of perspective, the House of Lords has made its position clear. If someone wants to be a private entrepreneur, that's their prerogative. But they argue that leveraging a titled identity, while rebuking the responsibilities behind it, threatens the integrity of the monarchy, an institution they feel compelled to defend. Long before the House of Lords took action, murmurs swirled about how Meghan and Harry's new projects leverage their royal credentials. From multi-million-dollar Netflix deals to podcast series on Spotify, the pair's titles often appeared front and center in promotional materials. Some of these productions even launched with the introduction, "The Duke and Duchess of Sussex," displayed in regal fonts. And who could forget the controversy over Sussex Royal, a trademark attempt that the Queen herself had to intervene against? Observers on both sides debated, are Meghan and Harry capitalizing on a brand that's meant to carry centuries of tradition rather than being a marketing label? In the eyes of the Lords, this latest motion musters a firm stance on the issue. They believe titles tied to the crown come with specific duties and respect, not wide-open opportunities for sponsorship deals and splashy docuseries. They point out that while many royals do engage in charitable connections or patronages, there's a distinct line between philanthropic representation and big-budget media ventures aimed at global audiences. Once the Sussexes stepped back from active service, the House of Lords contends they lost the moral right to brand themselves as official spokespeople of the monarchy. That's where the heart of this controversy lies, in the clash between tradition and ambition. Some see Meghan and Harry as modern figures forging a contemporary path, using media platforms to share stories, highlight causes, and remain financially independent. Others, including many supporters of the petition, see it as a misuse of station, magnifying personal fame via a courtesy title that conveys a sense of royal endorsement, whether intentional or not. Regardless of perspective, the House of Lords has made its position clear. If someone wants to be a private entrepreneur, that's their prerogative. But they argue that leveraging a titled identity while rebuking the responsibilities behind it threatens the integrity of the monarchy, an institution they feel compelled to defend. What happens if the House of Lords prevails? In short, Meghan Markle could be stripped permanently of the Duchess of Sussex title. While that might appear purely symbolic, the spin-off effects could be substantial. The monarch's power to bestow titles is widely understood, but the possibility that Parliament might remove one raises deeper constitutional questions. Could other royals face similar repercussions if they stray from traditional roles? Where do we draw the line between personal freedom and the monarchy's expectations? Some experts warn that forcibly removing Meghan's title might fuel an even bigger narrative, one of persecution or retaliation, and potentially galvanizing her supporters. Others argue that failing to act would erode the monarchy's ability to protect its stature against self-branded royals who step outside accepted boundaries. Adding to the complexity, the entire issue transcends mere personal drama. It touches upon centuries of British tradition by asking how flexible or rigid those traditions ought to be when faced with modern media landscapes. In the larger scheme of things, the monarchy wields soft power worldwide. Titles like Duke, Duchess, Prince, or Princess are more than just glossy labels. They're part of how Britain communicates cultural identity on the global stage. Allowing that identity to be used for Netflix promotions or unsanctioned overseas trips might risk turning centuries of heritage into a marketing commodity. On the other hand, monarchies that remain too rigid sometimes risk alienating younger, more progressive generations. The House of Lords heard these arguments and still chose to act, suggesting where they stand on balancing historical gravity against individual entrepreneurial desires. What began as a whisper in Westminster could end as a seismic shift in royal protocol. Meghan Markle's journey from a Hollywood actress to Duchess of Sussex was once hailed as a bridging of worlds, modernity meeting timeless tradition. Now, that bridge looks poised to collapse. The House of Lords' petition lays out a stark question. Does Meghan's behavior disqualify her from retaining the privileges of a titled aristocrat? Or is this motion an overbearing punishment for stepping beyond an outdated blueprint? One thing is immediate and undeniable. The monarchy has rarely seen such direct confrontation from an institution that typically defers to Buckingham Palace. That alone signals a sea change. In times past, even significant royal controversies were diffused internally. Scandals avoided legal or parliamentary battles, unless downright scandalous or criminal. But the wave of public polls, combined with a media-saturated environment, lit a fire that the Lords could no longer disregard. If they ultimately strip Meghan of her Duchess title, newcomers to the royal family might think twice before mixing tradition with personal brand ventures. Where does this leave Prince Harry? Will there be further attempts to remove his remaining royal styles? Despite 61% of Brits reportedly favouring a similar action against him, immediate attention remains on Meghan. And for the monarchy, the stakes are high. A successful petition might reinforce the idea that the crown can still regulate its own, yet it might also create a permanent rift with those who see Meghan and Harry as victims of an establishment that doesn't handle criticism well. In the end, whether you stand with tradition or modern independence, the full scope of this confrontation speaks to how powerful symbols can become in an age of viral clips and insatiable public curiosity. Meghan Markle once seemed poised to bring fresh energy to the royal stage, but her modern approach, podcasts, docuseries, red carpet events, may have violated unwritten but deeply held agreements. Obligation over exploitation, as some critics phrase it, stands as the central credo of the monarchy. Breaking it, in the House of Lords' view, demands a firm response rooted in law. Only time will tell if this motion concludes in a formal eviction of her royal status, or if cooler heads eventually prevail. Yet, one thing is certain. From that first hush in Parliament's corridors to the fiery headlines today, the conversation about Meghan's title has turned into a national and even global talking point. It forces Britain, and onlookers worldwide, to examine the monarchy's place in a fast-changing society. Is tradition flexible enough to accommodate a new wave of royals who speak out on personal struggles and monetize streaming platforms? Or does that wave undermine centuries of carefully choreographed ceremonial roles? As we wait for the final word from the House of Lords, it's clear that the Duchess of Sussex stands at the center of a constitutional crossroads. The outcome could ripple through the monarchy for years, rewriting unwritten rules and possibly setting a precedent for how official titles can, or cannot, be used in our modern era. And there you have it, a full account of how one silent rumour blossomed into a full-scale parliamentary petition, and how a single title is now the battleground for the heart and soul of the British monarchy. Keep an eye on these developments, because no matter which side you're on, the final verdict will say a lot about power, legacy, and the delicate dance between private ambition and public duty.